DWDR-FM. Physics, Chemistry, Earth Science, Biology, Biochemistry, Environmental Science. These are some branches of science. Science is about a whole lot more than that. And to sum it up, we believe that science is the way of helping the brain grow in finding new knowledge and help us defeat our curiosity and how the world develops and works today. Science. This is your class, and this is science. And now, here is your host for the day.
Magandang hapon sa ating lahat. Yes, magandang hapon sa lahat ng ating mga listeners and viewers. Most especially to our grade 9 learners. You are listening to our School on the Air, 106.3 Dance Radio, where learning is amazing.
Okay, yes ma'am. So first of all, I would like to greet Dr. Rodrigo V. Pascua, the Chief Education Supervisor and our officer in charge. To all the head teachers, especially the head teacher of Science Learning Area, Ma'am Annabel A. Rodriguez. To all teachers, parents, and learners, welcome to another episode of Scientific Time.
Yes, with me today are the Scientific Grade 9 teachers. Good afternoon to you, Sir Ryan, Ma'am Donabel, and Ma'am Dina.
Alright, so this afternoon we will be learning another lesson which will help you recognize different carbon compounds which are very useful in our daily living. So my dear learners, listen intently to our on-the-air lesson. Please stay tuned. We will be right back after its airing.
Yes.
Wala nang makakapigil pa. Sulong Arangkada 106.3 Dance Radio sa Aurora, Isabela.
Edukasyo'y susulong, basta na magtulong-tulong. Sulong edukalidad, Dance Radio.
Physics, Chemistry, Earth Science, Biology, Biochemistry, Environmental Science. These are some branches of science. Science is about a whole lot more than that. And to sum it up, we believe that science is a way of helping the brain grow in finding new knowledge and help us defeat our curiosity of how the world develops and works today. Science. This is your class, and this is science.
Wonderful day, grade 9 learners! I am teacher Riofei B. Magaway, your radio teacher in science. I am glad to join you in another meaningful learning experience and to help you gain deeper understanding of the lesson. This is your School on the Air in Science 9.
It's Science Time!
At this point, I want you to get your learning activity sheets number 3 titled Carbon Forms Bonds, your pen and notebook. Listen attentively and write down important concepts that you hear in this broadcast. Are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Let us first recall our previous lesson. What did you learn last week?
Ma'am, we learned about the different types of compounds. and their properties.
Yes. What are the different types of compounds?
The different types of compounds are ionic and covalent, ma'am.
Very good. Will you differentiate ionic and covalent compound based on their properties?
Ionic compounds have very high melting and boiling points, while covalent compounds have a low melting and boiling points, ma'am.
Very good. What else?
Ionic compounds tend to be brittle in solid forms and are generally soluble in water, and the resulting solution conducts electricity. On the other hand, while some covalent compounds are soluble in water, they do not conduct electricity when dissolved, ma'am.
Precisely. In this episode, you are expected to describe the properties and structural formulas of carbon compounds and classify carbon compounds as to alkane, alkene, and alkyne. I know you are excited, so let's get it started. Can you guess what element loves to bond most?
Is it oxygen, ma'am?
Nice guess, but it is not.
Ma'am, the element that loves to bond the most is carbon.
You are right. It is carbon. Can you explain why?
Yes, ma'am. The element that loves to bond the most is carbon because it can combine with itself and with many other elements to form great diversity of compounds. The food we eat, our hair and skin, and even drugs, perfumes, and petroleum are all carbon compounds. More than 90% of all known compounds contain carbon.
Precisely. Carbon found in so many compounds. Who can say something about the element called carbon?
Ma'am, carbon's symbol is capital letter C. Its atomic number is 6, which means that it has also 6 electrons and 6 protons.
Its electron configuration is 1s2, 2s2, 2p2. Looking at its Lewis dot structure on page 2 of our learning activity sheets, capital letter C is surrounded by 4 dots, showing that carbon has 4 valence electrons which are involved in chemical bonds, ma'am.
Precisely. Following the octet rule, atoms need to have a full outer energy level of 8 electrons. How will a carbon atom attain this?
Ma'am, carbon can form 4 covalent bonds to fill its outer energy level and to achieve stability. From our previous lesson, covalent bonds are chemical bonds that form between nonmetals wherein 2 atoms share a pair of electrons.
You are right. Carbon's ability to form up to 4 covalent bonds with other nonmetals makes it able to form long chains. Also, carbon-carbon bonds are strong enough to be stable, but not so strong that they can't break and rearrange, which makes them excellent building blocks. This makes carbon unique. Because of its uniqueness, carbon can produce numerous organic compounds.
Carbon has universal properties, ma'am.
I can see that you are attentive, my dear learners. Keep it up. We shall learn more about organic compounds after a short break.
Science Trivia. Science Trivia. Science Trivia. Did you know carbon has the unique ability to form bonds with other atoms of carbon, giving rise to large molecules? This property is called catenation. These compounds may have long chains of carbon, branch chains of carbons, or even carbon atoms arranged in rings. This trivia is brought to you by Insert .nic.int. Kaagam, Doña Aurora National High School and this station.
It's Science Time!
You're listening to Teacher Rio.
I'm back! Carbon makes up the diverse organic compounds. Can you tell what organic compounds are?
Organic compounds are generally any chemical compounds that contain carbon-hydrogen bonds, ma'am. In addition, different organic compounds may contain nitrogen, oxygen, as well as the halogen elements.
That's right! One of the most common organic compounds are hydrocarbons. Do you know what hydrocarbons are?
Based on its name, hydrocarbons are compounds which contain carbon and hydrogen only, ma'am.
You are correct! Hydrocarbons are naturally occurring compounds and form the basis of crude oil, natural gas, coal, and other important energy sources. Hydrocarbons are grouped into families. Can you name them?
Ma'am, hydrocarbons are grouped into alkanes, alkenes, and alkynes.
That's right. Will you describe alkane?
Ma'am, alkanes are the simplest hydrocarbons which contain a single band of carbon-carbon. They have the general formula of C subscript small n, H subscript 2, N plus N, where N is the number of carbon atom.
The simplest alkane is methane, with a chemical formula of CH4, where one carbon atom bonds with 4 hydrogen atoms, ma'am.
That's right. How about alkenes?
Ma'am, alkenes, also known as olefins, are the second class of hydrocarbon. They are the unsaturated hydrocarbons with one or more double bonds between carbon atoms. Its general formula is C subscript N, H subscript 2N.
Very good. The most familiar alkenes are ethene, C2H4, and propene, C3H6. Now, let's talk about alkynes. Will you describe alkynes?
Ma'am, alkynes are the third class of hydrocarbons. They are also unsaturated hydrocarbons, just like alkene, due to the presence of least one triple bond between carbon atoms. They have the general formula C subscript small n, H subscript 2, N minus 2.
Precisely. What is the simplest alkyne?
The simplest alkyne is ethine, ma'am. Its chemical formula is C2H2.
Very good. Each group has certain structures that make their properties different from the other. How do we distinguish one family from the other families?
Ma'am, we can distinguish one family from the other by the presence of single, double, and triple bond. Alkanes consist of single bond, alkenes with double band, and alkynes with triple band, ma'am. This is reflected on the suffixes "-ane", "-in", and "-ine" respectively, ma'am.
You got it right. The name of hydrocarbon also reflects the number of carbons it contains. The prefixes for the number of carbons are shown in Table 2 on page 2. Let's take a closer look. What prefix is used if there are 5 carbon atoms?
The prefix used if there are 5 carbon atoms is pentamam.
Correct! Can you name some other prefixes?
Yes, ma'am. Some of the prefixes are hexa for 6, hepta for 7, octa for 8, nona for 9, and deca for 10, ma'am.
Absolutely! Let us look at the tables on page 3 of your learning activity sheets. On the third column, you can see there the structural formula of the compounds. Looking at the formula itself, you can determine if it is single, double, or triple band. Can you count the number of carbons based on those figures?
Yes, ma'am. Every corner of the chain represents carbon atom, ma'am.
That's right. On the first table, there are 4 carbon atoms. What type of bond exists based on its structural formula?
There are single bonds, ma'am.
Very good. It is a single bond and has 4 carbons. What is the name of this compound?
The name of the compound is butane, ma'am. It has single bonds, ma'am.
Good job. Let's proceed to the second table. How many carbons are there in the compound?
There are 3 carbon atoms, ma'am.
Precisely. What type of bond exists in the compound?
There is a double bond that exists between the 2 carbon atoms, ma'am.
Very good. What is the name of the compound?
The compound is propene, ma'am, and it has double bond.
Very good. Let's have the last table. Kindly count the number of carbon atoms.
There are 7 carbon atoms, ma'am.
What type of bond exists in the compound?
There is a triple bond, ma'am.
Then what is its chemical name?
Its chemical name is heptine, ma'am.
I'm impressed. We will be back after a short reminder.
Science Trivia. Science Trivia. Science Trivia. Carbon is an incredible element. Arrange carbon atoms in one way, and they become soft, pliable, graphite, register the arrangement, and presto, the atoms form diamond, one of the hardest materials in the world. This trivia is brought to you by LiveScience.com, Kaagam, Doña Aurora National High School, and this station.
It's Science Time!
You're listening to Teacher Rio.
I'm back. Now it's time to sum up. What have you learned, dear learners?
Ma'am, I've learned that carbon makes up the diverse organic compounds, likely because each carbon atom can form covalent bonds with up to 4 other atoms simultaneously. This quality makes carbon well suited to form the long chains of molecules.
Yes, what else?
When carbon bonds only with hydrogen, it forms compounds called hydrocarbons, namely alkanes, alkenes, and alkynes, wherein carbon can form single, double, or triple covalent bonds with other carbon atoms.
You are doing great. Do you think organic compounds are important? And why?
Yes, ma'am. Organic compounds are very important because all living organisms contain carbon.
In the case of hydrocarbons, they are very useful, and it is one of the compounds that helps us create things that is part of our everyday lives. It is a great source of electric power generation. We can also use hydrocarbons in the form of plastics, lubricants, paints, textiles, and even medicines.
Good job, my dear learners! Here are questions to check how well you did in our lesson. Analyze every statement carefully, then write your answers on a separate sheet of paper. Are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
First, why are carbon atoms able to form many organic compounds? Choices are A. Carbon atoms have strong attraction to their elements. B. Carbon atoms attract electrons from other atoms. C. Carbon atoms can form many types of bonds with other carbons. And D. None of the above. I repeat. Why are carbon atoms able to form many organic compounds? Choices are A. Carbon atoms have strong attraction to their elements. B. Carbon atoms attract electrons from other atoms. C. Carbon atoms can form many types of bonds with other carbons. And D. None of the above.
The answer is letter C, ma'am. Carbon atom can form many types of bonds with other carbon.
Correct! Next, what group of simple organic compounds contain only carbon and hydrogen? I repeat, what group of simple organic compounds contain only carbon and hydrogen?
The answer is hydrocarbons, ma'am.
Very good! How about this? Give the name of the compounds with 3 number of carbons having single bond, double bond, and triple bond.
Ma'am, the answers are propane, propene, and propyne respectively.
Precisely! Before we end, what is the significance of organic compounds in our daily lives?
Life would not be possible without organic compounds, ma'am. In fact, the building blocks of our body are organic compounds. The foods we eat, the clothes we wear are all organic compounds. Also, fuels for electricity generation and transportation are very important in our daily living.
Very good! Congratulations! That ends our lesson for today. I hope you have gained deeper understanding about carbon and its compounds while listening to this broadcast. Thank you for your excellent participation. For questions and inquiries about the lesson, feel free to contact your subject teacher using the number and email address located at your learning packages. I would like to acknowledge the teachers behind this School on the Air episode. Teacher Jennifer S. Lacambra, our script writer. Teacher Riza N. Marzan, our technical specialist. Teacher Rosabel R. Brillo, our language editor. Ma'am Annabel A. Rodriguez and Teacher Ronnie G. Abalos are content editors. And I'm Teacher Yufei B. Magaway saying, the bond that links your true family is not one of blood, but of respect and joy in each other's life. Goodbye!
Chemistry, Earth Science, Biology, Biochemistry, Environmental Science. These are some branches of science. Science is about a whole lot more than that. And to sum it up, We believe that science is a way of helping the brain grow in finding new knowledge and help us defeat our curiosity of how the world develops and works today. Science. This is your class, and this is Science.
Okay, welcome back! Yan. So, sana ay marami kayong napulot na... Ayan. Okay, sana nakinig kayong maigi sa ating RBI. Ayan. So, kumusta na ang ating mga estudyante? Welcome back sa ating Science 9. Okay. Ayan. So, before we continue, let us have a short review of our previous lesson nung week 2. Okay, yung previous lesson natin. Yes, Ma'am Dina?
Okay, yes, Ma'am Jen. Okay, bago ang lahat. Okay, good afternoon po sa ating lahat, mga grade 9 learners. Especially to my 9 Guyabano. Andyan pa ba kayo? Dalandan and my Makopa. Okay, so, before we're going to proceed with our discussion for today's lesson, for this week lesson, let us have a short review first. Kung natatandaan pa natin yung ating lesson ng last week, ng week 2. Kasi pag sasabihin ko palang last week, hindi di ba Ma'am Jet? Ma'am
3
Donna?
weeks na nakaraan.
Yes. Bale, 3 weeks ang nakaraan. Pero sana, nakatatak pa din sa ating mga isipan kung ano yung ating mga lesson or yung ating lesson nung week 2. Okay. So, eto. So, sa lesson natin ng week 2, we have discussed the different types of compounds. Okay, so what are these types of compounds? According to their properties, we have the ionic and we have the covalent compounds. When we say ionic compounds, ito yung a combination of a metal plus another or plus non-metal. Tama ba ako dun, Ma'am Donna? Yes. I-correct mo ako pag ano, Ma'am Donna, no? Yes. Okay. Pag covalent naman, parehas sila na non-metal. Then sa covalent kasi natin, there are two types. We have the polar covalent and the non-polar covalent. When we say polar covalent, ito yung unequal sharing of electrons. Kumbaga, yung kanilang, they have different electronegativity difference. Or negativity values, I should say. Okay? Kasi, naano din yung electronegativity values yun kasi ginamit natin yun in determining the type of compound. Okay? Then, pag sinabi din naman natin non-polar covalent, equal sharing. For example, yung ating oxygen gas. Diba? Ito yung parehas sila ng kanilang electronegativity values. Yung non-polar. O ulitin ko ha. Ang polar, there is an equal sharing of electrons. While the non-polar, an equal sharing of electrons. Then, ano ba yung napag-aralan natin? We have yun, yung kanina, yung sinabi ko na the electronegativity differences. Kasi yung electronegativity differences nila, we can use that to determine what type of bond or what type of compound. Okay? So, if their electronegativity difference is greater than 2 pataas, ionic compound or ionic bond yun. Pero kung ang kanilang electronegativity difference is from 0.5 hanggang 2.0, yan yung polar covalent. And then, from 0 to 0.4, yan na yung non-polar covalent compound natin. So, yun yung mga pwede. Of course, there are also many uses, yung kanilang mga uses. Nagkalat ang compound sa ano natin kahit sa bahay nga lang natin, sa CR alone, sa comfort room, or sa bathroom, or sa kusina na lang natin, ang daming mga compounds na doon. So, yun po yung yun yung pinakaano dun sa lesson natin last week. kay Ma'am Jen.
Yes, thank
May
you, Ma'am
idadagdag?
Dina. Thank you, Ma'am Dina, sa napaka-comprehensive na review natin. Okay, since we are talking with compounds, bonding, ayan. This week, we are going to discuss about one of the greatest or one of the important compounds in our lives. We have the carbon and its compound. So, ayan. Before we continue, here are our learning objectives. Sir Ryan, pakibasa.
Yes, ma'am. So our first objective is describe the properties of carbon. Second, explain the structural characteristics of carbon. Third is identify the general classes of carbon compounds. And lastly, recognize the importance of carbon and its compounds. Ayan. And for our most essential learning competency, explain how the structure of the carbon atom affects the type of bonds it forms.
Okay, thank you, sir. So yan, we will be talking about carbon and its compounds. Actually, sa college, merong talagang isang SEM na
Yes,
pag-aaralan
course.
mo ito yung organic chemistry,
Yes,
which
ma'am.
talks about or studies the carbon and its bonding with other atoms. Ayan. Pero ngayon, isang araw lang natin, isang week lang natin pag-aaralan yan, di ba? Ang galing natin.
Basta ang importante doon, Ma'am Jen, si carbon, ano siya, kumbaga, ang dami niyang, properties, yung parang napakalawak na niya.
Yes.
Special.
Special properties. Yes.
Okay.
Special properties.
Yes, ma'am. Bago natin masabi yan, okay, hello muna. Gisingin natin ang ating mga estudyante na nasa comment box. Mag-ingay kayo mga anak dahil magpapa-games tayo, ano? Okay, so, name the, guess the word. Okay, guess the word. So, may papremyo tayo dito sa mga mauuna. Sir Ryan, tignan mo yung ating comment box.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, guess the word, one word. Guess the word, one or two words, pwede. Okay. Okay. So, pakitignan na lang ang naka-flash sa ating screen. What is that? Okay. Hula-hula na. Ano yan? Ano yan ngayon eh? Controversial. Kasi...
Yes.
Oo.
Yun yung isa sa mga nagmamahal ngayon.
Oo. Ito yung mga minamahal. Ayun, nagmamahal. Oo. Ayun, may sumagot na. May sumagot na. Pare-pareho sila ng sagot. Sabi nila, gasoline. Okay, tignan nga natin. Ang sagot ay fuel.
Okay, fuel. Tama nga naman, ma'am.
Okay,
Pero
pwede
specific.
na rin. Oo, pwede na rin. Gasolina.
Napaka-specific lang na gasoline.
Kasi ano to di ba, pag titingnan, di ba, gasoline, tapos diesel,
Yes,
ganun.
ma'am.
Tapos,
Pero in general,
in general, they are
fuel.
called
Fuel.
Okay. May sumagot. Pero nabigay ko na yung sagot. Ang sagot niya is fuel. Ayan, si
Pero
Isang.
pag may sumagot ng petroleum,
Petroleum, pwede rin.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, ika-count ba natin, ma'am, yung gasoline?
Yes, ma'am, pwede.
Pwede. Okay, sige. Tanggapin. Sino yung nauna kanina sa gasoline?
Si Charmil
Ay, hindi. May nag-fuel pala kanina.
Meron ba, ma'am?
Oo. Si Tracy Ann Bulilan. Tama ba? Siya yung nauna? Okay. Tracy Ann Bulilan. Ayan. Tracy Ann, PM mo ko, anak, Ayan. Tracy Ann. Kasi may pa-premyo tayo. Okay. Next. What's that? Secret ang ating pa-premyo. Okay. What's that? Nagkalat yan. Lalo na pagkatapos ng mga birthday party, ganun ba? Mga kasalan. Ano kaya yan?
Yan ang gusto ngayon, hindi na jar.
Oo.
Faucet.
Hindi na sila masyadong
Okay,
mahilig
meron
sa
na sumasagot, ma'am.
Oo, may sumagot na. Anong sagot?
Okay.
Plastic bottles.
Plastic bottles.
Plastic bottle. Anong klaseng plastic bottle ba yan? Alam nyo ba yan? Anong yung tawag dyan? Puro plastic bottle, plastic bottle. Anong klaseng, may pangalan talaga yan eh. plastic bottle. Anong klaseng plastic bottle? Mineral bottle siya. Natawa ko dun sa mineral bottle.
Mineral water bottle.
Mineral bottle? Mineral plastic bottle.
Okay, ano ba yung sagot natin dyan,
Ang
ma'am?
sagot natin. Ang sagot natin ay PET bottles.
Okay, pero
Polyethylene bottle.
pero plastic bottle.
Oo, accepted siya.
Yes, ma'am,
Accepted
accept.
siya kasi plastic siya talaga.
Hindi common yung ginagamit
Okay.
natin polyethylene bottle. Di ba?
Okay, sige. So, pwede na rin yung ating plastic bottle kanina.
Pagalitan tayo.
Pagagalitan. Okay. So, si Rovelyn yung nauna natin sa plastic bottle. Okay. Anak, i-message nyo ako,
Anong price, Ma'am Jen? May
Oo.
price ba tayo?
May pa-price to. Oo. Siyempre, school supplies. Yan. Oo, pwede ring load. Mamaya yung load, ma'am. Oo. Ito naman, ano ito?
Ayan, sa mga mahilig mag food trip.
Oo, mukbang.
Sabi ko na tuloy. Ayan.
Ano yan? Hindi, yung simplest word na pwede yung dyan, sabihin dyan.
Ayan, meron
Ayan,
na, ma'am.
meron na.
Si
Nakita ko.
Edeza.
Oo. Yan.
Ay,
Yan, ang sagot ay foods. So meron
Okay, very
sumagot.
good foods.
Simple lang yan. Okay, sino yung nauna? Si
Si ano?
Edeza.
Edeza.
Ng 9 Lanzones. Okay.
may pasangyup ka ba, ma'am? Ilang price?
Okay, so yung mga yan, napakita natin, they all have one thing in common. Oo,
Yes.
ano ba yung one thing in common sa kanila? Okay.
Hulaan ko.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Ano yung one thing?
Hulaan ko, Ma'am Jen.
Sige, ma'am.
Carbon.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Tamang-tama. Okay, lahat ng mga pictures or mga words na sinagot nyo ay merong carbon. Containing carbon. They all contain carbon.
So, hindi lang yung mga picture na pinakita natin.
Oo.
Almost everything ma'am, na nakikita natin is
Yes.
made up of carbon.
Oo, yes. Ayan, so thank you dear learners. So, for mabilis na run through ng ating topic pag-aaralan ngayong araw. So, we have 3 topics. So, first is how are carbon atoms able to form many organic compounds? Yan, with Ma'am Donna mamaya. Second topic, what are organic compounds and its classes or classifications with Sir Ryan? And what are the important uses of organic compounds with Ma'am Dina later? Ayan, sabi nga natin ma'am kanina, napaka-importante ni carbon because carbon is the backbone of life. Bakit natin nasabing backbone of life, ma'am? Ay, hindi. Sige ako. Okay, sige ako na muna. Okay. So, all living things contain carbon. Yes. Although cells are 70 to 95% water, the rest consists mostly of carbon-based compounds. Carbon is unparalleled in its ability to form large, complex, and diverse molecules. Yan. Even the proteins, the DNA in our body, the carbohydrates, yan, mga kinakain natin, yung mga foods kanina, and other molecules that distinguish living matter are all composed of carbon compounds. Di ba, Ma'am Donna?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Meron pa? Okay. So, carbon is an incredible element. Ano? It can be in different forms. Pwede siyang present in the food that we eat through compounds. Ano?
Yes.
It can also be in the soil. It can also be present in the waters. And it can also be present in the air. Okay, and all living things contain the element carbon, kaya meron tayong very diverse properties of carbon. Although there are also other carbon containing substances, but they are not considered
Organic.
Organic. Ano na yung mga examples natin doon sa Ryan?
Ng ano?
Carbon-containing compounds, but...
Carbon dioxide.
Yes. Marami pa.
Oo.
Carbon monoxide. Yung mga carbonates natin.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
No? Okay. And, hindi ba lilipat yung slide?
Okay. Ayan pa. So, yan, ma'am. So, first topic natin is carbon. How are carbon atoms able to form many organic compounds?
Okay. So, because of the properties of our carbon atom, ano ba yung mga properties ng ating carbon atom? We will be discussing them one by one. But, let us start with our figure here on the screen. We can see here a box, which is usually seen, very common na nakikita natin in the periodic table. So we have the letter C in the box that now symbolize or represents the carbon atom symbol, and the 6 on top of the big letter C is the atomic number, which gives us the number of electrons and also the number of protons of an atom of carbon. And we have the atomic mass, which is written below, that is equivalent to 12.01. Yung AMU doon na nakikita natin, mga anak, that is atomic mass unit. Okay, so this is how we express the mass of a carbon atom. Okay, and we have here, carbon can form up to 4 covalent bonds.
Ma'am, paano
Okay.
nagkaroon ng 4 covalent bonds?
Okay, so let me explain that, but let us take it step by
Okay.
step. Okay. So, because it is a very special atom, carbon is a pattern maker. No, sinasabi natin pattern maker siya because of the covalent bonds. Okay? It can link to itself, forming long resilient chains called polymers. Okay? So polymers, ibig sabihin pag polymers, long chains of the same carbon atoms. Okay? It can also bond with up to 4 other atoms. Yan na yung sinasabi natin, bakit kailangan pwede siyang makipag-bond sa 4 na carbon atom because of its free 4 electrons on its second energy level. So last time, maalala ninyo yung lesson natin sa first week ng chemistry. So meron tayong mga energy levels, di ba? In the first energy level, there are 2 electrons, of the first ring in the carbon atom. In the second energy level, meron tayong 4. Why? Because carbon belongs to group 4A family or 4A family or group 4. Tama ba? Tama ba yung group niya? So, yung column niya nandoon. That's why it has 4 free electrons. And these 4 free electrons are free to what? Bound or free to be bonded to other electrons from another carbon atom. So, pwede siyang makipag-bond. Okay. And atoms are arranged as the nucleus, surrounded by an electron cloud with electrons zinging around different distances from the nucleus. Carbon has 2 electron shells. Let me read this. Although na-discuss ko na. With the first holding 2 electrons and the second holding 4 out of possible 8 spaces. So, bakit kasi kailangan maging 8? To make the carbon atom stable. Okay? So, bakit kailangan niyang maging stable? Para siya hindi laging excited. Kasi once an atom is excited, it always, an atom which is excited is always looking for another atom where it could form bonds, no? And kapag nag-form siya ng bonds, compounds are formed. Okay? So, when atoms bond, they share their electrons, and so does with the carbon. atom. Ngayon, sabi natin, meron siyang 4 electrons doon sa second energy levels niya. So, it could share these 4 electrons to other atoms, no? And it can do that with other carbon atoms or with hydrogen atoms. Okay? When atoms bond, they share electrons in their outermost shell. So, yung outermost shell ng carbon o yung outermost energy level niya, yung highest energy level, remember, lagi siyang merong 4 na electrons sa labas. Okay. Kaya pag makita natin yung electron configuration, electron dot symbol, yung Lewis dot symbol ng carbon, nakikita natin usually yung merong 4 dots around the carbon atom. Okay, carbon has 4 empty spaces in its outer shell, enabling it to bond to 4 other atoms. It can also bond stably to fewer atoms by forming double or triple bond. Hindi lang 4. Ngayon, pwedeng tatlo lang na atoms ang nakaband sa kanya. But, kapag tatlo, merong isang band na doble ang band. So, doon na nailipat yung isang covalent band sana. Okay, kapag dalawa lang, meron kang triple band or pwedeng dalawang double band. Okay, papakita yan mamaya ni Sir Ryan kapag nag-discuss siya mamaya ng ating susunod na lesson. Nasa dulo ba, Sir Ryan?
Sa gitna, ma'am.
Nasa gitna. Okay. And, in other words, carbon has options. Marami siyang options. So, very, very special ang property niya. And it uses them. Nearly 10 million carbon compounds have been discovered, and scientists estimate that carbon is the keystone to 95% of known compounds. It can form single, double, or triple bond with other carbon atoms. It can also form long chain, almost unlimited in length. Wow, kaya niya pala yun, ano? It can also bond in a wide variety of shapes. So, pwede siyang cyclical or yung tatawag nating aromatic. Carbon-carbon compounds are strong enough to be stable but not so strong that they can't break and rearrange. Okay.
Okay na, yes. So, that property of carbon makes it unique of all the elements of all the known elements. Ayan. So, that is why it is the best for building blocks. Yan, ng mga molecules yung carbon. Okay, so, forms of pure carbon, we have, yan, are you familiar with the diamond and the graphite? So, diamond, alam natin, used as jewelry. It is a pure carbon. It is considered as the hardest mineral. Bakit siya naging ganyan? Okay, because it is exposed to extreme pressure. Ayan. Pero ano siya, carbon siya, ano?
Yes.
Yes. Then, graphite, yan, it's kung ay yung nasa loob ng lapis, yon, it's actually more of a graphite, hinaluan lang ng clay, mixed with clay and formed into long thin pencil lead. Yan yung sabi nilang lead, pero actually that's a graphite. Okay, so if you notice that this is the structure of the carbon atoms bonded in a diamond. Ayan. Ito siya ay crystalline form of carbon in which each carbon atom is bonded strongly to 4 other carbon atoms. Okay, formed from high temperature and pressure. The melting point of diamond is more than 3,500 degrees Celsius, can be made artificially and are used in industry as cutting tools. Ayan. Meron akong napanood na yung mga remains ng mga namatay is after makremate, yung kanilang abo is artificially ginagawang diamond.
Okay.
Oo. Kasi carbon yun, 'di ba? Yung remains ng yung abo is may carbon doon. So yun ginagawa nilang Ayan.
May idadagdag ako, Ma'am Jen.
Yes,
Yung
ma'am.
graphite kanina, balikan natin yung
Ito
sa
may graphite dito. Ayan,
Doon sa
graphite.
graphite, when graphite is exposed to high pressure, high amount of pressure and high amount of temperature, it is converted to diamond.
Diamond, yes.
And,
Kasi isa rin siyang carbon.
oo. And dun sa temperature natin ng yung formation of diamonds, which happens at a temperature of 3,500 degrees Celsius, this usually occurs or happen in underground, where there is high temperature and high pressure. And usually kaya marami pero marami akong nababasa that in Africa, where there are number of extinct volcanoes, doon marami silang nahahanap na excavate na diamonds. Yes. Kasi this is where high temperature usually occurs doon sa mga dati ng volcanoes na active na naging extinct. Kapag maraming nag-excavate doon, usually these are the places where they could find diamonds. Yung pinakamalaking diamonds yata doon yata nakuha sa Africa.
Wow.
Yes.
Napaka nito
Meron pa akong parang napahapyawan ko na may mga kahit dun sa paligid lang ng volcano na ma'am, after how many years nag-explode siya. May mga naghuhukay kasi sila doon May napahapyawan akong nabasa na kaya pala. Oo.
Yes.
So parang
Nagkakaroon siya ng metamorphosis, parang sa rocks
parang
din.
yung mga yung mga nandun sa loob na kasi di ba talagang malakas ang doon, very high ang temperature
Pressure.
at saka yung pressure.
Yes, ma'am.
So, yun nga ma'am, mostly nakikita ang diamond near volcanoes. So,
Yes.
hindi lang siya kung saan-saan.
Oo.
Baka mamaya kasi maghukay-hukay sila sa paligid.
Baka mamaya, di ba may volcano tayo dyan sa harapan ng DOST? Baka mamaya kaya nila yan.
Hindi, kasi ang requirement para magkaroon ng diamond is high temperature and high pressure.
Doon lang siya pwedeng magkaroon ng formation.
Yes.
Yes. Yan. So, then yung graphite, ayan, each carbon atom is bonded tightly to 3 other carbon atoms in flat layers. So, bonds are weaker than the diamond. Yan. Lead in pencils is mostly graphite used as a lubricant in machines. So, basically, ang tawag sa graphite and diamond ay allotrope of the carbon. Yan. Carbon siya, pero nagkaroon siya ng iba't ibang itsura. Ayan. Bakit nagkaroon ng iba't ibang itsura? Okay. So, because of allotropes may display very different chemical and physical properties in response to change in pressure, temperature, and pwede rin yung exposure to light. So, yan palang. Carbon alone can make different materials. What else kapag nakapag-bond siya ng iba pang mga atom? So, dagdag ko lang dito, aside from graphite and diamond, meron din tayong tinatawag na mga nanotubes, which are carbon. Yan, nanotubes yung mga ginagamit. Okay, so carbon compounds are organic compounds or inorganic compounds. Ito yung kaninang sinabi ni Ma'am Donna na may carbon siya, containing carbon siya, pero hindi siya organic compound. Ito yung carbon dioxide, sodium carbonate, and yung chalk na ginagamit ng mga teachers. Okay, so ano ba yung requirement para maging organic compound siya? So, this contains carbon that is bonded with hydrogen and other nonmetals. So, kailangan si carbon ay nakaband kay hydrogen rather, then pwede rin may mga iba pang nonmetals na nakaband sa kanila. Pero, kung inorganic compounds naman, meron siyang pwedeng magkaroon siya ng carbon but there is no hydrogen present in the compound, katulad ng carbon dioxide. So, CO2 naman ito, carbon and oxygen siya, so walang hydrogen, so hindi siya pasok sa requirement ni organic compounds. Okay. Unlike sugar, protein, starch, meron silang CH bond sa kanilang formula. structure. Yes. Okay. So, dahil nga pag-aaralan natin ang carbon compounds, we will be focusing on organic compounds. So, what are organic compounds, Sir Ryan? Ay, ito.
Oh, yes, ma'am. So yan, meron tayong 16 million organic compounds are known compared to 700 inorganic compounds. So, mas marami tayo yung organic compounds. And if we say organic compounds, my dear learners, so compounds that contain carbon, ayan, syempre, and many organic compounds have similar properties in terms of melting and boiling points, odor, electrical conductivity, and solubility. So meron kasi, pag sinabi kasing carbons, meron tayong homologous series of, yun, pwede yung hydrocarbons na i-discuss mamaya. So, meron tayong tinatawag na trends in their physical properties wherein since pare-pares silang may carbon, yung properties ng carbon is nasa kanila din lahat. Ano ma'am? For example, yung sa may property ay yung sa melting and boiling point. And then many are gases at room temperature. Many have a strong odor. Ayan, and many do not dissolve in water.
Okay.
All right. So,
isa sa mga pinakasikat na organic compounds.
yes, ma'am. So we have here hydrocarbon. So first, let's define what is hydrocarbons. If we say hydrocarbon, this is organic compound that contains only the elements carbon and hydrogen. So yun lang yung makikita nating atom or yung carbon and hydrogen atom lang yung makikita natin sa kanyang structure. Okay, so we have classification of hydrocarbon. So we have saturated, unsaturated, and aromatic. So if we say saturated, so maximum number of hydrogen atoms attached to each carbon atom. So we have here alkanes. Okay, so ang alkanes ay isang saturated hydrocarbons. So makikita natin if we say saturated, it can form only 4 single bonds. So lahat ng may ko-connect dun sa carbon atom natin ay single bond only. Okay? Ayan. So we have also unsaturated hydrocarbon has at least one double bond or triple bond in its carbon chain. So under kasi sa unsaturated, which is yung double bond, ito yung alkenes, and yung alkynes naman with triple bond. So madi-distinguish natin yung difference ng alkenes and alkynes. So we have also aromatic. Yan, compound having a close ring of alternate single and double bonds with delocalized electrons. So yung aromatic po, composed din siya ng benzene ring, which is composed of 6, yes ma'am, 6 carbon atoms na meron siyang single and double bond na alternate siya. Ayan. Okay, so ito, parang summary lang nung kanina. Types of hydrocarbon. Yes ma'am, naulit lang.
Yes.
Alright, so we have first the alkanes. So this is saturated hydrocarbons, organic compounds that consist entirely of single bonded carbon and hydrogen atoms. So, di ba kasi nasabi kanina, dear learners, huwag kakalimutan na ang carbon atom ay meron lang siyang 4 na electron ma'am na kailangang makiband. So, merong 4. So, yung 4 na yon kailangan ng tagsi-single lang or lahat yon ay single bond. So, the general formula, ito, huwag din kakalimutan, CnH2n plus 2. So, i-explain din natin mamaya kung paano natin gagamitin sa pag-name ng alkanes. So, the trivial name for alkanes is yun, paraffins. And alkanes are less dense than water. As one can observe, oil and alkane floats on water. And alkanes are highly flammable. Yes. Ayun, ma'am. So,
sir, dagdag lang natin yung suffix niya na in. Yan, which
yes,
presents a single bond.
Yes,
okay.
ma'am. Sige, ma'am. Okay. Ma'am, pwedeng doon muna tayo sa next ano. Ay, wala. Tinanggal mo ba yung ano, ma'am? Ayan. Okay. So, dear learners, we have here example of straight chain of alkane. Kung mapapansin nyo, we have yung name niya. Yung susunod dyan is the molecular formula. Then we have the expanded. Ano? So, dito, sa pag-name, manonotice nyo na nakadepende ito kung ilang carbon atom meron siya. For example, sa methane, we have only 1 carbon atom. And then sa ethane, sa propane and butane. So, ang gagawin natin dyan, ma'am, para mas madali is iwalay muna natin yung 4. So, sa pentane, okay, di ba penta, ma'am, is 5? Kaya meron siyang 5 carbon atom. Pag sa hexane naman, hexa means 6. So, definitely, meron siyang 6 carbon atom. Heptane naman, hepta means 7. So, meron tayong 7 dyan. Octane is 8. So, meron tayong 8 carbon atom. Nonane is 9. And deca means 10. So, meron tayong 10 carbon atom. So, madali lang yung pentane to decane. So, eto, dear learners, sa methane, ethane, propane, and butane, rinurut kasi yung prefix na ma'am, kasi yung pentane, hexane, gano'n, meron siyang prefix, kaya alam natin kung ilang number. So, yung methane kasi, ethane, propane, and butane, they are rooted historically. So, paano natin maikakabesa or maaalala yung 4 na yan? So, gagamit tayong anagram, or example is yung Mary eats peanut butter. Ayan. So, Mary means yung M is methane, eats. Ayan, so yung ethane naman yon, yung propane is yung peanut butter which is P, and yung butter is yung butane. Yan, para mas madali nating matandaan. Alright? So, next naman, doon na sa kanina. Okay, so this time, let's also apply yung formula natin, na general formula for alkane is CnH2n plus 2. So, note that N is the number of carbon atom. Okay? So, kung gusto nating makuha yung, for example, yung expanded structural formula dito, so meron siyang 2 carbon atom, yung kulay blue. Okay? So, isa-substitute lang natin siya sa formula, which is equal to C, ayan, o close and open parenthesis yung 2, H2 times 2 plus 2. Okay? Okay, so makukuha natin yung C2H4 plus 2. So, makukuha na natin yung C2H6. Ayan, so, Et means 2. Tapos, yung kanina guys, pag alkanes, lahat ng alkanes, nag-e-end po siya sa ane. Ano ma'am? Which is, tatawagin na natin to na ethane. Ayan. Okay? So, yan ma'am. Oh, yan. So, next is alkenes naman tayo. So, alkenes is unsaturated hydrocarbons. So, alkene is often used as synonym of olefin. That is any hydrocarbon containing 1 or more double bonds. Okay? So, pag alkanes is single bond lang siya, ang alkenes naman nagko-contain siya ng 2 or more, 2 to 3 or more pa na double bond. Okay? Double bond naman meron siya. So, the general formula, CnH2n. Ayan. I-explain ko mamaya kung bakit nawala yung plus 2 sa ating formula. Kasi pattern lang din naman natin ang alkanes, di ba ma'am? Alkenes and alkynes. Meron lang konting difference sa kanilang formula. So, alkenes are non-polar and they are both immiscible in water and less dense than water. And they are generally soluble in organic solvents. In addition, they do not conduct electricity. Ayan. Okay, so yung sinabi ko kanina, same lang ang dun sa naming. Gagamitin pa rin natin yung prefix kanina na et, ganon, propene, butene, pentene, and hexene. Okay? So, dun na tayo sa okay. Yan pala, mapapansin natin sa structure, ayan na yung sinasabi namin kanina na double bond. Kung mapapansin nyo, ayan yung mga example natin ng alkene ay meron siyang double bond sa kanilang structure. Okay? Okay, doon na sa formula, ma'am. Ayan. So, ang formula naman for alkene is CnH2n. Sir, saan po napunta yung plus 2? Okay. So, kung mapapansin natin, anak, sabi ko nga kanina, nasabi din ni ma'am, na 4 lang yung kayang i-bond ni carbon na hydrogen. So, kaya natin tinanggal yung plus 2 kasi nagkaroon na siya ng double bond. Ano, ma'am? So, yung dalawa na yon is doon na napunta yung plus 2 nyo kanina. So, kung we have 2 carbon atom, isa-substitute lang din natin. So, C2H2 times 2, makukuha natin yung C2 H4. Ayan. So, pag alkene naman, ang ating suffix sa kanyang end ay palaging in. Di ba, ma'am? Or ENE. Ayan. So, we have here, since 2 carbon atom siya, meron na tayong ethene or also known as ethylene. Ayan. Okay, Ma'am Jen?
Okay. Yes, sir. So, the third hydrocarbon is alkynes. Ayan. So, mapapansin nyo, isang letter lang na iiba sa kanila. So, dito naman ay may Y na siya. Okay, so alkynes. This is a unsaturated hydrocarbon because of the presence of a triple bond. Okay, it is traditionally known as acetylenes. Okay, so the general formula is CnH2n-2. Naka-pattern din tayo kanina dun sa parang sa alkane kanina. Okay, dissolved in organic solvents, have slight solubility in polar solvents, and are insoluble in water. Compared to alkanes and alkenes, alkynes have higher boiling points. Okay, so mas mahirap siyang pakuliin. Okay, so if you notice again, the open structure contains triple bond. Ayan, between the carbon atoms. So we have here the ethyne. Ayan, two carbon atoms bonded with one hydrogen. Bonded with two, meron siyang one hydrogen atom each.
Yes, ma'am. Kasi
okay,
makikita natin doon sa ethyne, may triple bond siya. So, ibig sabihin, yung tag-isang carbon atom natin, isa na lang yung kaya niyang i-bond na hydrogen, di ba, ma'am? Kaya magiging 4 din.
Oo, kasi kailangan, di ba, 8, di ba?
Yes, ma'am.
So,
Kailangan
naging 8 na siya. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So,
Yes.
8 na dito, then 8 na ulit doon. So, stable na siya. This is the simplest ethyne, ano, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Kasi wala nang, hindi pwedeng maging isang carbon atom lang ang alkynes.
Yes.
Kasi meron siyang triple bond.
Oo, kailangan may ka-triple bond siya para ano. So, ethyne is the simplest alkyne, while ethene is the simplest alkene. Tama?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so ito yung ating general formula. Ulitin natin, CnH2n-2. So, gamitin ulit natin yung 2 carbon atoms. So, let's substitute C2, then H2 multiplied by 2 minus 2. Okay, so C2H, so 4 yon minus 2, C2H2. So, if you will count to check, there are 2 carbon atoms and 2 hydrogen atoms. So, ethyne. Ayan, ethyne. The name is ethyne or known as acetylene. Okay, ito yung ano, yung ginagamit sa
Yes, welding or
ito yung ginagamit, ma'am, sa ano, ethyne.
for cutting of metals.
Yes. Yan. Okay, so we also have aromatic hydrocarbons. Ito yung sinabi kanina ni sir na meron siyang benzene ring. Okay. So it is cyclical with the localized electrons, which leads to increased stability. Generally non-polar and immiscible with water. Carbon-based compound with distinct odors. Okay. The ratio of carbon atoms to hydrogen atoms is relatively high in these types of molecule. Almost 1:1 kasi ito, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Oo. When burnt, the aromatic hydrocarbons display a strong and sooty flame which is yellow.
Okay.
So kapag may sinunog kayo na bagay na fuel, tapos ang ano niya is yellow, it's a aromatic hydrocarbon. Okay. Example nito is naphthalene. Kung napapansin nyo yung mga bilog na bola sa inyong mga
Naphthalene
aparador,
Yes.
yan yung
For absorb ng moist ba, ma'am, or
hindi function ng mga ipis. Oo, ayaw nila kasi yung amoy niya kasi 'di ba strong yung odor niya. Aromatic, malakas yung ano niya. Yung
Masam-sam.
naphthalene, yun yung mga mothballs na nilalagay sa aparador. Tapos biglang lumiliit kahit hindi naman yan. Then sa mga model glue, yung mga glue natin, merong toluene, yes, and then meron ding phenanthrene na key compounds in organic synthesis. Ayan, yung mga ginagamit nila sa mga laboratories, gumagawa sila ng iba-iba pang products. Ayan. Okay.
So may additional lang ako ma'am doon sa alkanes, alkenes and alkynes. So kung mapapansin natin, meron present kasi ng single bond, double bond, tsaka yung triple bond. So yung ratio, kung mapapansin natin, they have the same for example sana ma'am sa ethane sa ethane tsaka ethine, they have the same 2 carbon atoms, pero ang pinagkakaiba nila yung number of or yung ratio of hydrogen. Ayan. So doon sila nagkakaiba. Kaya may pag nagkaroon na ng single bond, ng double bond at triple bond, same sila ng carbon atom, mag-iiba na yung properties, di ba ma'am?
Yes.
So, hindi na sila magkakatulad. Ayan, kasi may distinct properties na yung tatlo. Ayan.
Oh, yes. Okay. Then, so that those are the organic compounds. So now let us take a look with the uses of these compounds na yan that we can find in our daily lives or daily living sa araw-araw na pamumuhay.
Yes, so mostly the application ma'am?
Yes.
Yung kasi natin ina-apply itong mga organic compounds na ito.
Yes, ma'am. With Ma'am Dina.
Okay, so thank you Ma'am Jen and Sir Ryan. Habang nakikinig ako sa inyo natututo din ako. Kasi aminin man natin o hindi, di ba?
Yes, ma'am.
Habang naglaklase tayo, nag-ano tayo ng lesson natin talagang natututo tayo. So hopefully ganun din yung ating mga estudyante ngayon
Yes,
na
ma'am.
nakikinig. Kasi very informative kasi yung natin. So ayun, ako natututo pa ako. Kumbaga, nadadagdagan pa yung kaalaman ko about organic compounds.
Yes,
Kasi
yes,
it's not enough na alam mo lang na ang organic compounds, carbon and hydrogen.
Yes, ma'am.
How about the properties of those? Diba? So, natututo talaga tayo. Okay? So my task is about the uses of organic compounds. Diba? Katatapos lang yung hydrocarbons natin. We have the alkanes, the alkenes, and the alkynes. Dati nga, pag tinuturo ko yan, pag nakikita ko nang naboboring yung mga estudyante, ang pag-pronounce na namin is ALKANES. Yung mga ganon, pero syempre, hindi yun yung na tinuturo ko na pag-pronounce doon. Pero para lang to break the monotony, para ganon, yun. Ginagamit namin yung mga words na yun, yung ALKANES, ALKANES, kung namin yun yung mga namin. Okay, so we have yung unahin muna natin yung alkanes. 'Di ba? Ang alkanes saturated siya, 'di ba? Saturated. So it is the most important sources for alkanes or oil and natural gas. Okay. So alkanes are important raw materials of the chemical industry and the principal constituent of gasoline and lubricating oils, di ba? Pero ngayon, di ba, ang gasolina napakamahal?
Yes, ma'am.
True, maglakad
Tapos
na lang
napakamahal
tayo.
talaga. Oo. Kaya parang ayaw mo nang lumabas pag may sasakyan ka, parang ganun, di ba? Kasi parang mahal-mahal naman na, pero wala tayong magagawa, di ba? Okay, so gasoline. So natural gas mainly contains methane and ethane and is used for heating and cooking purposes and for power utilities. Yun yung mga gas turbines natin. Yun yung mga natin ng alkanes. Okay, ano ba yung mga examples ng alkanes natin kanina? We have the propane, methane, butane, mga ganon.
Ma'am Dines, ang
Yes?
mga alkanes, they are usually used as fuels.
Yes, as fuel sila.
Yes,
Yun.
ma'am. Because
Yun talaga
they're-
ang pinakaano ng mga alkanes natin as fuels. Okay. Andyan yung the crude oil kasi iba-iba naman yun, di ba? Crude oil, gasolina, kung ano-ano pa yung mga iba't ibang dyan sa magpapagas tayo ng mga sasakyan natin. di ba?
Component sila ng gasoline. Katulad ng octane, di ba? Ano yung octane level, ganun-ganon, di ba?
Oo, may mga iba't iba eh. Okay. So, natural gas contains lighter alkanes, mainly methane, ethane, propane, and butane, and produces less pollutants compared to petroleum-derived fuels. Okay, some of the usage are, we have heating, cooling, house, or yung sa air conditioning natin, ovens, sa fireplaces, ano pa yung mga outdoor lights. Outdoor lights, yes. Yung sa yung portable.
Butane yun,
sa butane.
Kahit yung sa mga lighter
lighter,
fluid.
lighter
Sa lighter fluid, yun.
Meron din tayo sa yung sa mga plastic products. From cracking of ethane and propane sa alkanes. Fertilizer also, meron pa din. Okay, fabric, we have also antifreeze, motor fuel, yung mga yon. Okay, so sa natural gas yon. Okay, meron din tayo yung sa biogas. A biogas is a non-petroleum fuel produced via anaerobic digestion or fermentation of renewable materials such as manure, crop, sewage, farm waste, municipal waste, and others. So, biogas mainly comprises of methane and carbon dioxide and also contains, of course, hydrogen. Okay, meron din tayong tinatawag na renewable diesel. Okay, so renewable diesel are opposed to petrodiesel, is produced from renewable resources such as vegetable oil, fat under elevated temperature, pressure, and in the presence of catalyst. So, ito din yung tinatawag na green diesel because it does not contain sulfur and other toxic materials. So, renewable diesel can contain alkanes of 9 to 18 carbon atoms. So, yun po yung Ma'am, pwedeng pakimove po yung natin, slide po natin. Ay, wala na. Pabalik nga po. May nakita kasi ako kanina. Ay, iba. Sige. Okay. So, yun po yung mga alkanes natin. How about those alkenes? Eto naman yung alkenes. Nasabi namin noon alkanes. Di ba? So, alkenes can be used to make polymers, the starting material for plastics. Maalala nyo yung kanina, yung sa nauna, sa motivation ba yun? Yung pinakula natin na plastic bottles?
Yes, ma'am.
Di ba yun?
Yung pet bottles.
Pero pet bottles, Sabi namin kanina, Ma'am Donna, pet bottles. Subukan mong bumili ng sabihin mo, pet bottles sa palengke, baka iba to sa'yo yun Di ba? Pero bihira, pero dapat yun yung term, di ba?
Yes.
Kaso lang nasanay na tayo sa plastic bottles
Mineral bottle daw, ma'am.
Baka water bottle. May nakita ka akong water bottle kanina pwede
Kasi
naman
nagkakaintindihan tayo.
Yes, yung water bottle. Siyempre, tubig ang laman di ba? Oo. Okay. So, what are the uses of these alkenes? So, kagaya ng ethane, propane, methane, yun. Yes, hexene, yung yun. Tignan nyo yung mga pagkakaiba ng mga examples natin. Isang letter lang yung pagkakaiba nila, di ba?
Yes, ma'am.
From A to E, and then Y, di ba? Yun. So, yes, ma'am.
Yung styro pala, ma'am.
So, manufacture, tignan nyo yung mga nandun mga examples, mga pictures ng mga alkenes. Okay, so manufacture of plastics like polythene for making buckets, bowls, bags, and others. May mga nakikita ba kayo dyan? Ano ba yung nakikita pa natin dyan sa natin?
Ayan,
sa
may
screen
bucket
natin?
dyan.
Ayan.
May rope.
May
mga
upuan
lubid.
pa doon, di ba?
Yung mga upuan,
Plastic
monograms.
chairs. Yes. Mga plastic materials. Yun kasi talaga ang ng alkenes. Yes. Okay, so manufacture of polystyrene used in making car battery cases, and parts of the refrigerator. Tama ba ako? Okay, making ethane, 1 to 2, used as anti-freezing for motor car radiators. Sa lang ba? Sa mga sasakyan lang ba may radiator? Anong tawag dun sa mga ref? compressor.
Oo,
Radiator.
may compressor siya.
So, compressor ang katapat niya sa mga ref. Mga ganon. Okay, manufacture of ethanol and synthetic fiber pterilene, making an anti-knock for car engines. Manufacture of plastic, polypropylene for making ropes and packaging material. O, packaging material. Diba? May panali tayo dun, may tali, kakusana. Okay, then, manufacture of propanol used in making acetone. So, kasali sa alkanes yun, yung sa acetone, ma'am. Okay, then, manufacture of acrylic fibers. Yung mga yun yung mga gamit of or the uses of various different alkenes na yun. So, marami na tayong mga ano doon, di ba? Okay, then, the last one we have, the alkynes. Tama ba ako? Sa uses of alkynes, andyan, as rocket fuel, as drug production. Bakit natin sinama yung drug production, ma'am? Baka mamaya.
Mga medicines
Yes,
yan,
ma'am.
ma'am. Drugs kasi yan.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Ang bawal lang yung mga prohibited.
Oo.
So hindi po kasali yun.
Hindi porkis drugs po nandyan
Diba?
baka matukang tayo.
Oo. Kasi di ba pag sinabi kasi nating drug ngayon,
Parang negative agad ano,
Yes,
ma'am.
negative. Oo.
Yung mga pain reliever natin, yan mga yan.
Yes, kasi yung mga
Ayan.
Mga gamot.
Kaya minsan pag nag-aanuhan kami, nagkakantuhan kami ng mga anak ko mercury drug. Alam mama, hindi rin maganda yun kasi drugs. O, di ba? Mga drugs. Pag yung naglolokohan kami. Okay, so the most common form of alkynes, ethine. Yun yung most common form, ethine. It is used in preparing many other compounds, such as, okay, so the most common use of ethine is for making organic compounds like ethanol, ethanoic acid, and also acrylic acid. Okay, nasaan na ba yung mga yun? Nandyan ba sa screen natin? Okay, it is also used for making polymers and its beginning materials. For example, yung vinyl chloride. It is used as the starting material for PVC, and chloroprene is used for synthetic rubber neoprene. Okay, so ethine is used for preparing many organic solvents. Alkynes are commonly used to artificially ripe fruits. Ito yung karburo na sinasabi natin. Yan din yung ginagawa kong example pag di ba yung nilalagay sa saging.
Nung face-to-face kasi mo may activity tayo niya.
Oo, dun sa book natin, Ma'am Jen, yun yung palagi kong binibigay na example para at least alam na nila yun, di ba? Yung karburo. Karburo ko na, kamo pa lang sa mga estudyante, ay alam na nila yun. Kasi nga, ginagamit nila na para mapadali yung paghinog ng mga fruits natin.
Yes, ma'am. So hindi na natin kailangang antayin na napakatagal ma'am, bago kainin.
Oo.
So yan, mas
Pero
napakabilis.
meron din kasing hindi magandang effect
Hindi kasi
kaya sa
pwedeng
saging.
kainin yun. Pag na-ingest mo kasi yun, pwede.
Oo, at saka dun sa saging mismo, di ba, yung may mga matigas na parts sa saging.
Kasi mamang nangyayari, kahit hindi yung mga hindi pa mature, sana is parang hina-harvest na nila, din nilalagyan nila ng kalburo, ma'am.
Ano yung
na pinapahinog,
Yes,
para-
Sir Ryan, alam mo ba yung ano yun? Pag bumili kasi tayo sa hardware, anong binibili natin? Hindi mo naman sasabihin na ethylene
Yes, ma'am.
Kalburo. Okay. Ano yun? Naglalabas ethine is a gas which is a hormone. Hormone siya na nagko-cause ng ripening of fruits. Oo, yun.
Di ba nire-release din siya ng mga fruits, ma'am?
Oo, kasi meron talaga naturally, meron talaga sa plants yan. Yun yung nagpapa-mature ng bunga and even seeds of fruits.
Diba, para mapabilis
Pero para
diba, negosyo.
minsan ini-induce natin yung sabay-sabay na pagkahinog ng agricultural products natin like bananas, mangoes. Ginagamitan natin ng ganyan, pero pag napipilit kasi hindi maganda yung
Hindi
effect.
quality, ma'am, ng
Tapos parang mainit pa kasi yun di ba?
Mainit kasi
Mainit
gas
talaga.
siya.
Mainit siya. siya, kaya siguro yung ibang mga pag na direct, indirect,
Yung
contact.
yung ethine mismo is not the carburo.
Yes.
But the carburo will release the gas, yun yung ethine. Oo, yung
Kahit
gas na
yung
nire-release niya, yun ang
ginagamit din
ethine.
Yung madre cacao. Pwede rin yung...
Siguro, yung
Natural producer yun. Oo.
Ano siya,
Hindi lang
madami
madre
siyang
cacao,
nire-release na
yung
ethine.
sa acacia,
Kaya pala.
yung sa acacia
Kaya
din.
pala, yung mga lolo ko noon, pag
Madre
may mga
cacao.
manggang na pitas, nilalagyan nila ng mga dahon ng,
Madre
yun,
cacao.
yung madre de cacao sa ibabaw, sa ilalim.
Yung lolo ko naman yun, yung acacia.
Ganun,
Yung
pwede.
dahon, yung
Nagre-release
acacia.
din siya.
Oo. Yung nilalagay nila, ganun pala yun. Ganun.
Pwede rin yung bigas. Ganun meron din sa
Yung-
bigas.
Bigas, oo.
Meron din
Yung,
yung bigas.
pinagpapahinugan talaga
Nilalagay
yung
din sila.
Makikita mo may chiko dun sa bigas.
Oo.
May mangga.
Naman
Oo.
sa amin, nilalagay sa bigas. Parang kinabukasan di ba matigas-tigas pa siya.
Ako din, ganyan ako.
Ilagay mo sa ng bigas, sa bigasan nyo.
Okay.
Bukas ilog na.
Ayan.
Di ba?
Okay, so-
Malambot na siya. Okay, so parang napakasimple lang nilang mga di ba, these hydrocarbons, pero
Yes,
the
they have-
uses, di ba?
Yes,
Hindi
ma'am.
natin
Ang
yung
dami.
mga kanilang mga gamit.
Meron dito, mama. Ayan.
Ayan.
Other carbon compounds in our daily lives.
Sa
So, mostly
candles, detergent.
na-mention na natin yan, ma'am, yung mga...
Napaka-useful, di ba, ma'am?
Detergent, shampoo,
Oo.
yung mga yan.
Ayun, yung sa
Vitamins.
perfume naman, meron kasi tayo yung sa may aromatic hydrocarbons. diba, ma'am?
Yes.
Kaya yung mga pampabango, ayan. Pero hindi ibig sabihin pag aromatic siya, ma'am.
Mabango,
is, mabango, pleasant. Meron din yung
Mabaho.
yung hindi talaga
Yung
maganda.
odorous.
Yes.
ang tawag doon.
Yung amoy niya, di ba?
Oo.
Kasi
So, yung
minsan
sabon,
kasi, di
ginagamit
ba,
natin.
ang kwan natin, pag sinabi kasing aromatic, odorous, mga ganun, parang nagkakaroon na kasi yung iba ng, parang bad yung niya, hindi maganda. Pero kung titignan talaga natin, yun yung parang to describe yung sa amoy. Di ba? Oo. Yes. Okay, so gasoline o lotion, nail polish remover, o sa mga paint. Yes. Ano pa? Paper. Yes. Yung organic solvents. Oo, tama. Ano pa?
Wood.
Sa mga sabon. Wood. Yes, sa wood.
Okay. And many, many more.
Marami
16
pa.
million yan.
Oo,
mga
kasi
yan.
di ba 16 million yung organic compounds compared sa 100,000 lang
Yes,
of
700,000
inorganic
naman.
compounds. Yes, parang nasa 700,000 lang sir. So compounds talagang siya. And then yung carbon talaga,
Okay, and that makes the carbon
yes,
very
so
special, and unique.
Very
Love ko na si
useful.
carbon.
Yes.
Okay, so before we end, mga anak, gising pa ba kayo dyan sa ating chat box? Meron tayong tanong. Ayan, eto. May papremyo din to. Magbibigay tayo ng 30 pesos load. Ayan, sa mga makakasagot, sa mga mauuna. Okay, question. O, ready na ba kayo dyan? Okay. Why can carbon form so many compounds? Ayan, o, sagot-sagot na mga anak dyan sa comment box. Sentence ito.
Masyado atang mahaba
Hindi,
yun.
pwedeng phrase lang. Pwedeng phrase lang. O, phrase lang. O kaya ano yung distinct property niya? Bakit siya nagkakaroon ng many compounds?
Hindi kaya ng Google.
Why can carbon form so many compounds? Ilang beses binanggit nila Ma'am Answer to kanina. Ayan. Ayan. O, meron ba? Meron ba?
Wala ata, ma'am.
O, magbilang tayo, sir. 10. 10 seconds. I-google na yan. Ayun o, ayun o. Okay. Si Christian Vino, sabi niya, carbon can form many compounds because it belongs to the group 4A in the periodic table. And, meron pa. Darwin siya si Christian Vino na nakatutok sa atin. Thank you, anak. Because sabi niya, because each carbon atom form 4 chemical bonds to other atoms. Actually, connected yung sagot nilang dalawa.
Yes.
But the answer is, it is because it can form up to 4 covalent bonds with other carbon atoms or other atoms. Ayan. So, si Cyril mas yung kanyang sagot. Cyril May Limos, anak, i-chat mo ko o kaya si si subject teacher, tapos send mo yung number. Send mo yung number mo. Okay.
Science teacher niya.
Oo, yung science teacher mo.
na lang.
Para bibigay niya sa akin. Next. Compounds containing only carbon and hydrogen. Ang dali-dali naman. Ay, ang hirap. Hirap ba? Pinagpapawisan na tayo dito sa question na to. Compounds containing only carbon and hydrogen. Anong sagot? 10. 9.
Ayan naman.
Meron na ba?
Christian Vino.
Okay. Sino nauna sa'yo? May nauna sa akin eh. Hindi, may nauna sa akin si Natasha Pearl. Tama
Mas
ba?
nauna si ma'am.
Okay. Sige.
Pero ang sagot niya ay ma'am ay organic compounds.
Ang sagot ay
Tama ba?
hydrocarbons. Ang nakalagay dito kasi is only carbon and hydrogen.
Yes, ma'am. Pag organic compounds, ma'am, maraming maraming
pwedeng may
ibang
nitrogen,
Yes.
pwedeng may fluorine,
Yes, ma'am.
mga
So, ang
oxygen,
tamang sagot ay hydrocarbons.
Okay, congratulations, Natasha Perltan. Tama?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, ganun din anak message mo ang subject teacher or ako, i-send mo yung iyong number na loloadan natin ng 30 mobile load. Okay. Eto, what are the What are the classifications of hydrocarbons? Dapat maibigay nyo yung 4. 4. Dapat maibigay nyo yung 4. Para kumpleto. Okay. What are the classifications of hydrocarbon? Diniscuss ni Sir Ryan
Parang ako
kanina
ata nag-discuss yan, ma'am.
Yung 4 kanina.
Meron na, ma'am. Si Christian Vino.
Ayun,
Ayan, bumalik.
Bumawi siya. Okay, Christian Vino. Ang sabi niya, alkenes, alkynes, and aromatic hydrocarbons. Tingnan natin kung tama siya. Okay, alkane,
tama pa rin,
alkyne,
ma'am.
aromatic. Yung sa akin yung na iba.
Yes, we can consider naman.
Tama. Okay, Christian, ganon. Send mo yung number mo. Okay, so, doon na tayo magtatapos. Ay, di pa, meron pa pala. Okay, give the name of this compound. Give the name of this compound. Okay, give the name of
so
this
mga anak,
compound.
dear learners, alalahanin nyo lang yung kanina, yung sinasabi ko. Kung ilang carbon atoms meron siya.
Oo. Kailangan, alam niyo yung number of carbon atoms and kung anong klaseng band
kung
yung
anong
makikita
band
sa
meron
kanya.
siya. Ayan yung mga dapat nyong i-consider in naming hydrocarbons.
Okay, may sumagot na. May nakita na akong tamang sagot.
Christian ulit, ma'am?
Tignan nga natin. Ang sagot is octene. Okay, tama si Christian Vino. Octene. Oo. Nakadalawa siya, no? Dalawa?
Yes, ma'am.
Dalawa. Bali 60 yun. So, dapat i-send mo yung number mo,
Yes.
Okay.
So, bakit siya naging octene, ma'am? Kasi meron siyang 8 carbon atom and meron siyang isang double band. Ayan.
Okay.
Kaya siya naging octene.
Yes. So, pwede siyang, kaya siya naging octene. Ayan. Okay. So, that ends our topic for this week. Sana sagutan nyo na ang inyong mga validating questions and yung reflection. Huwag kakalimutan mga anak. Ayan. To end, yan, dahil malapit ng Valentine's. Yan. Sabi nung isa, you look older than your profile picture. Okay. Sagot naman niya, I've been under a lot of pressure. Sabi niya. Ayan. Okay. So, pareho silang carbon, si
Yes,
graphite saka si diamond yan. Nag-date silang dalawa. Ayan. Na-pressure kasi yung isa, kaya gumanda siya. Ayan. Ganun ba? Okay. So, that ends. Goodbye. See you next week. Yan. Thank you so much to our dear learners. Siyempre, sa ating mga technical specialist dito sa booth, Sir Mark and Sir Dennis. Thank you sa support. And yan, we hope you learned a lot. See you again next session. Keep safe, everyone. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
physics, chemistry, earth science, biology, biochemistry, environmental science. These are some branches of science. Science is about a whole lot more than that. And to sum it up, we believe that science is the way of helping the brain grow in finding new knowledge and help us defeat our curiosity and how the world develops and works today. Science. This is your class, and this is science. And now, here is your host for the day. Ito ang 106.3 Dance Radio. Dance Radio.